Welcome to another episode of Mindshift. I'm Dimitri Wakuf, your host and a leadership coach. As you know, the purpose of Mindshift is to help you create atomic shifts in your mind so that you can live your life with more prosperity, love, and satisfaction. And today we're gonna have someone who is gonna talk about how we can actually read people. And that's a topic which I always am been so interested in. I've just shared with him that I've read the book of Dale Carnegie, like how to win friends and influence people, like more than 10 times. And but I can still say that I can learn a lot in this topic because I've been involved in that. But this person has so much experience, so much wisdom in this direction. So I'm really interested to hear more about it. Um, so without talking more about this, welcome, Alan Stevens. And I want to first ask you, um, actually, who you are. Share your story with us.
Oh, you throw me at the deep end, eh? Where do I start with that? It's a lot of it, a lot of background there. But if I look at who I am today, I'm a grandfather of 6 grandkids, a father of 3 sons. The 3 sons who I raised from the age of 4 and 11 and 12 on my own. Before that, came from born in Sydney in Australia, and lived with my mother and sister. My father died when I was 3 years old, so I didn't have any male role models in my life, which is probably one of the reasons that led me to wanting to understand people and build stronger relationships through my life. But professionally, I'm a profiling and communication specialist. Been working all around the world, and I'm also the host and creator of the Campfire Project and the #WeTogether initiative. So everything I do in life is in relationships. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. There's a lot more of the journey that got me to this point. But yeah, a profiling and communication specialist and host of the Campfire Project.
Lovely, man. So, but I want to hear a little bit more about something. So every person, I think last time we spoke with you, we had this conversation around that every person has these points in life, like moments in life which turn around your life and just point you in different direction. So can you give us a little bit of these moments in your life? Can you record them, like 1, 2, these moments when they turn around everything? So can you share some of them with us?
Yep, certainly. They're pretty much like the spokes on a push bike wheel. There's plenty of them. As I said, the first one was growing up without a dad. That was an interesting time for me, pretty much a loner in those times. But I applied for what we call the Postmaster General's Department. It was our post office and our telecommunications company that was a one organisation. And I applied for it in, was it 1967 and 1968. I applied to, and I got knocked back both times. The second time I was knocked back, they said that I had failed. And then I thought, I'm at high school doing my year 10. I didn't see myself getting through to year 11 and 12 because I really hated the education system. And I thought I'll become a carpenter because that's what everybody, all the vocational guidance trainers and teachers that I had were telling me. They said, Alan, you haven't got the brains to get into higher level jobs, become a carpenter. And so I did that, ended up being a factory job and didn't enjoy it. So I left there and moved on to, I think I'll go back to school. Then I got a letter from the Postmaster General's Department saying that had that many dropouts, they'd not accept me. And so I then joined them and did my 5 years as a technician in training. But as I was doing that, there was a process. So you'd finish that, you'd sit for an entrance exam and do a correspondence course and become a senior technician. Halfway through the apprenticeship, they turned around and said, oh, we're scrubbing that now. If you want to move forward, you've now got to do a communication certificate. So now that was a massive event in my life because it meant that while I was still doing my apprenticeship, I was also going to TAFE at night time to do this course because I thought I'm not waiting until I finish the 5 years because I guarantee I'll start that, then I'll change the rules again. I've got to get ahead of the game. So I thought, right, I'll start doing that at the same time. that was virtually working very long hours every day, working at their TAFE, working in the job, going to college at night time, and picked up the reputation of amiable Al, because anybody who talked to me, I'd snap, lack of sleep, always easy to stir me. But I then became, I got a transfer from Sydney to Newcastle, which was another big change, because I'd gone from living with my mother and sister, always having my mother doing the cooking and other things like that. Yes, I did some maintenance around the house, but other than that, you know, most guys will find they got mum looking after them. Well, I left there and came to Newcastle and now had to cook for myself. And funny enough, I found a partner. She and I started dating. She worked, her mother ran a catering business at one of the bowling clubs. And so I used to go and pick her up and find that I'd get caught up helping to wash up and clean up and get things moving so she could get out of there. We go on our date. Next thing you know, I'm a short order cook. So here I am cooking and getting paid for food that I was preparing when I'd only been cooking for myself for 6 months. So I pretty much learned that I could turn my hand to just about anything in life. Then we got married, and big thing changed there. My one of my uncles had told my fiancée at our engagement party she could do better than me. And so that was a kick in the guts. It also gave me that push to become really self-reliant and prove to everybody, further than I had when I was a younger fella, of what I was capable of. But we had the 3 boys, and we'd moved to a property because my wife wanted to move to the country. We moved to the country, and the end result, she then wanted to go and find herself. So I jokingly tell everybody that I gave her the sports car so she could get there faster, and I kept the boys because they didn't, they knew where they were. But so over the years, I learned that I also had to build a relationship with her, because otherwise my boys would suffer. So that was another turning point. But that happened after I'd been married a second time, short marriage. And that one, you can imagine you're going to catch up with your wife for lunch. You walk into a little cafe and you can picture it. It's a beautiful little cafe, about a dozen tables in there, little Italian place with beautiful tables, tiles over the tables, very colorful, metal leg chairs. Any movement, you could hear a noise in the place. And we're sitting there, and she just said to me, "Alan, I want a divorce." That was the first thing she said to me when she sat down. And at that point, you could hear a pin drop in the room because everybody heard what she said.
Wow.
So that, you know, that really pushed me at that point. And I thought, I've really got to learn how to read people. Over the years, I'd, in telecom, because PMG became our telecommunications sole provider, which was then Telecom, I became I was working with psychometric profiling, where you ask people questions with DISC and Myers-Briggs and things like that. Then I'd already been working with body language. In the early 2000s, I realized that this is after I'd left that telecommunications. I was working in my own business, and this company taught currency trading. None of their students made any money. So they got me to come in and work out why people were losing money. They had a brilliant instructor. He taught well, he knew his craft. He was a very professional live trader, very successful. And I realized that when we were asking people questions, they weren't answering the questions in a truthful way, because people were trying to second guess. What sort of a personality do I have to be to be a good trader? And I'm going, no, we need to know your personality, because your personality is going to get triggered when you're under stress. You can behave and learn how to work in different ways, but when you're under stress, you'll always revert back to your own personality. And we needed to know that. I'd already had my NLP masters. And so I'd had the psychometric profiling, the body language, and the psychometric profiling. Plus I'd been a massage therapist for a period of time. I'd worked with color therapies and sound therapies and aromatherapies. And in fact, the color and sound therapies I introduced into the Singapore hospital for the kids with ADHD, so that they could connect with them more effectively, so that the children would be able to study longer. They'd be able, before their buttons would get pushed. Because you put anybody, excuse me, you put anybody in an environment which is not conducive to their personality, you're going to trigger them. And kids with autism, Asperger's, any kid who's on the spectrum, they are hypersensitive. So you really need to know how to set the environment up so they don't get triggered. But then while I was working with this currency trading firm, I realized I need a better way of reading people, something that would not be affected by gender, would not be affected by the person's education level, would not be affected by emotions, either mine while I was reading them or theirs while they were answering the questions. And I needed something that could change all of that for me. And I was watching or doing a workshop one day, and somebody said to me, "You ever looked at reading faces?" So that's when I added the next two modalities, one being how to read somebody's micro expressions to understand their personality, their emotions, little twitches on the face, but also their facial features that would tell me their personality. So being able to look at someone's facial features straight away gives me the information to know their personality, know my own personality, so I know how to change the way I like to be spoken to match the way they want to be spoken to. And that way I can make a great connection with them. And then that's where the NLP came in, getting the language right. But then I had the body language and the micro expressions, little twitches on the face that would tell me, have I read them right? Is there something emotionally going on? And lastly, are they telling me the truth? And that's when I created rapid trait profiling, which has become the science and art of reading people.
Wow.
So I took those four sciences, brought them together and put them into a way in which it's delivered as an art form.
And this is quite a story how actually life kind of these turning points in life just helped you to really shape where actually you're going in your life. And every these events, I imagine that every one of these events put a little bit, salt in that, just a little bit more. So you're just coming here of who you are and what you do. It's a beautiful story. And I realized how actually, that's why I'm asking you about the story, because always our story is the answer of what happened. And people can see that actually everything which is happening in our life, like in your life, you had quite a lot of challenges and I guess setbacks and moments when you just felt that why is this happening to me or something. But then people, when I see in retrospect, they can understand that actually everything is happening for them.
Exactly.
Everything is happening for them. Yep.
Yeah. See, one of the biggest issues is that when things happen to us, we get all upset with that and we go, why me? And I realized, when I divorced my second wife, I had been a massage therapist before that and I'd put it on hold, but I got talked into coming back and giving a few friends a massage. And when they started asking me, how did the table move? Where'd the extra hands come from? And I'm thinking, these guys on drugs, what's happening here? And they said, well, because my whole massage technique had changed, gone from remedial to something that was completely new. And that was because of all the emotional stuff that was going on in my life. The fact that I was starting to get connected to my emotions more than what I had before, not just feeling them and shunning them, but now actually taking them on. And it was through the fact that I then started open my door back up again, and I was working with all of a sudden terminally ill patients coming through the door, plus also women who have been sexually abused coming to me, a male, to lie naked on a table underneath a towel and be treated with greatest respect and massaged, and they keep coming back. And I thought, I need some answers to this. And through some chance meetings, I got involved with an Aboriginal group and then got invited out bush on a regular basis, which ended up being every weekend for over a year, to where I was then finally invited out to go through my initiation. So through tribal initiation from boyhood into manhood. That was at the age of 50. That was 20 years ago.
Wow.
And so that was a big wake up for me. That then led on to wanting to understand people more. And that led on to then the face profiling that came in after that. And so realizing that all this stuff happened, but after I'd gone through that initiation, my very first wife because my boys had moved out when I got married the second time, the youngest one moved back with her. He would fight with her all the time. I'd take him out bush and he'd come out, meet with the other men. He'd come back. He was respectful to his mother. A couple of weeks later, he'd be fighting with her, take him back out bush again. And this cycle was going on. Wow. And I said, she said, well, what are we going to do about this? She said, he doesn't respect me and I don't think he loves me. I said, well, all three boys love you, but respect is something you have to earn. But first of all, you know, if they're in the mindset they are, they need to be shown how to respect you. First of all, that's not going to come from you. It's not going to come from another woman. It has to come from a male. Well, I'm the one with the biggest problem with you, as I see it. So it's my job. If you realize that I'm going to help them to respect you, that I'm doing it for them and not for you, because once she understood that if they didn't respect her, they would repeat my sort of history with all the relationships I'd had. And I didn't want to see that happen. It'd be bad enough if one did that, but all three. So I decided I had to make some changes. And so we built a relationship. And from that, the boys then, and the idea then was to try and get her to come back in and co-parent more as well. Because the boys definitely need a father, but they also need their mother as well. But as I said to the boys that grow up with mum have somebody looking after them all that time, and then they find a partner and they have somebody else looking after them. And as I told my 11 and 12-year-old at the time, I said, check these legs out. They don't look good in a skirt. I'm not doing all the cooking. I'm not doing all the ironing. You guys are going to learn how to cook. You're going to learn how to make your own beds. You learn how to sew and iron your clothes and everything else. And I said, because when you do meet a woman later on in life, you will find one because you want her, not because you need her.
Yeah.
And that was that was all started coming from that Aboriginal society. What I learned from them, it's an ancient culture, but the level of wisdom and you know, it's based on 3 pillars: love, humility, and respect.
Wow.
And so when you work with those, you have to change your attitude to pretty much everything that you had a negative thought on before. And that's been a very solid part of my growth as well.
So much wisdom from these people. I mean, even though they're like, some people would say they are like ancient people or something like this. Actually, you can see that the simplicity they live, the way they live, it's something which we need nowadays, because we